Start the day with
Yes, with what?
Radio 2.
Go on, who is it?
Ray Moore.
Yes, draped over the Radio 2 clothesline, wearing Methuselah's bonnet. Oh, my giddy aunt. That's what I like about Radio 2. Very dangerous thing to turn your back for a moment. Bedlam. Do you know what? Contrary to received medical opinion, I think we're going to get through this till 7:30. You'd like 9 men this morning, 8 dead and 1 in hospital. Little else. Lovely woman, your mother in the water. It was Barbara Dixon. Stop in the name of love. Sounded a wonderful idea when we were playing it through yesterday afternoon. I'm not so certain now. 25 minutes to 6. And thanks to the old Bill next door, keeping the world safe for democracy. Look at it, the beaming hordes out there. How anybody's got the right to be so cheerful at this ungodly hour of the night, I don't know. Love that lady on the dog and bone, Bill, telling us, the whole nation sitting here agog and agape, that Canterbury these days was in fact full of foreigners. Well, I had to have a sit down and a strong drink. I mean, what sort of foreigners are they? I mean, it sort of beggars the question. Are they Mexican car salesmen, Mongolian goat herds, perhaps, Himalayan deep-sea divers?
A world of entertainment. We're bringing it home to you on Radio 2.
The nation must be told, but not just yet. Here we go. Look at it. September the 30th, 1987. 20 years ago today, Sergeant Pepper taught the band to play. Yeah, it was 20 years ago this morning that Radio 2 was invented. Everybody seems to realise it was Radio 1's birthday. But Radio 2 as well was born on the very same day, the 20th anniversary. There's such legendary names at this time of the morning as John Donne and Paul Hollingdale and Peter Latham and a little boy called Raymond Moore. I was sitting here September the 30th, 1967, that's right, 5:30 in the morning with a programme called Breakfast Special. 20 years on, 5:30 in the morning, sitting here. What a wonderful progress in my career. I often think when I die and go to heaven and God says, well, look here, Mr. Moore, what did you do with the last 20 years? Well, God, I used to go in there every day and put funny records on like this. Say rather daft things between them. See, casts a whole new light on the parable of the talents somehow, doesn't it? Due for parole any time now. Uncle Bert drank the ink, and his very first big hit, Please Release Me. It's 20 minutes to 6, and a man, head of wires and bits of broken glass and bent doorknobs here, would like me to apologise to listeners in the southeast of England. Evidently our medium wave transmitter was off the air overnight. This was due to what we laughingly call in the trade essential maintenance. Essential maintenance. Anyway, it's all back together again now. I can never really understand maintenance, candidly. I mean, if it's not broke, why bother fixing the thing? But it's all academic, it's all gone away. Thanks, by the way, for all the congratulations cards. A lot of you seem to think that I'm sort of synonymous with Radio 2. I'm merely an incident on Radio 2, that's about all. But thanks to a lot of you, it's very kind of you to remember. And a lot of you actually put down, said, no doubt Dennis O'Keefe will turn up, especially for the celebrations, bearing bottles of champagne. Now, you've all obviously got a highly developed and somewhat perverted sense of humour and don't know Dennis O'Keefe at all well. I know what we could... If we had some book, you know, we could have books. The BBC loves an anniversary. As memories of 30 years ago. I've been feeling increasingly geriatric here this morning. That was a fellow called Johnny Roman, the king of rock and roll. And of course, times have moved on now after 20 years. I mean, what we specialise in between 5:30 and 7:30 in the mornings, Radio 2 now, I mean, the whole raison d'etre of the whole appalling shambles is the in-depth sports coverage. I mean, that's the reason we're here. It's sport. When there's a little lack in the sport, we knock on the odd record. But, I mean, we could have a bit of sport now if you fancy. I mean, it's not a million miles off 5:45. What can we have? Single-handed blindfold conkers? No, not many takers for that. I know what'll do it. 3-man, under-15 uphill bobsleigh finals.
It's second leg night in the 3 big European club competitions tonight, and Radio 2 will bring you the best of the action in a European soccer special starting just after 8.
Oh, all engagements are cancelled. I couldn't miss it for the world. I love the thought of Merthyr Tydfil playing football. I don't believe they play football in Merthyr Tydfil, especially playing teams like Vladivostok Rangers or whatever the deuce it is. I reckon they only play macrame in Merthyr Tydfil. And come to think of it, on this anniversary morning, I might even break the habit of a lifetime. And you know what? Pull out a personal best. Or I could do what Daley Thompson did the other week. According to the man on the television, he said that Daley Thompson was about to pull everything out. Far too much violence, I'm telling you.
Like some night
Yes, but I couldn't find a song called The Inverary Bird, so we thought we'd have that instead. Nightingale, a girl called Carol King. 11 minutes to 6, and thanks for all these cards and letters I mentioned before. Phil Fellows from Harrogate in Yorkshire, a nice congratulations card on 20 years of Radio 2. Enjoy your celebration, says Phil. Go easy on the old Monteverdi. No, I'm going to have buckets of Monteverdi later on. And Marguerite Rogers in South Harrow in Middlesex, a nice bootlicking note from her on behalf of the elite ragged banders. Like you lot, elite ragged banders in the early bride. Cheers, Marguerite. And Doris Short, dear Doris, in Bedlington in Northumberland. She says, you're not very much like any of the others. I liked being clipped round the ear and damned with faint praise. Kind thought, Doris. And a lady in the Daily Mail, lovely lady, marvellous writer, one of my favourite journalists, Linda Lee Potter, writes a mean bootlicking note this morning. Cheers, Linda. I think the day is rapidly dawning, Linda Lee Potter, when you and I have got to have a free lunch, you know. I can feel it coming on now.
Strolling in the park, watching winter turn in a restaurant, holding hand by candlelight.
Ah, that's nice. That's George Benson.
When I'm touching you,
Feel like making love.
wanting you with all my
Well, I did 20 years ago. Feel more like a bowl of nourishing gruel, candidly, no? 7 minutes to 6 o'clock. Tony Cox, who's in Ely in Cambridgeshire. And Tony says they lie here in a fit of giggles, evidently. They get hysterical about the boggarts up on the clough. I don't know what... There's nothing funny about it. I mean, it's a harrowing business. Tony shouldn't be sitting there laughing. His daughter-in-law, Sharon, she's slapping her thighs in disbelief as well. I don't know why I waste my time with you lot. It's Tony Cox, you monkey. And on a similar tack, the Nixon family, Eva and Cyril and Phil and all that lot in Chatterton and Oldham, said they were sorting out their effects. Whether they're looking forward to bad news, I don't know, up there in Chatterton. And they came across a couple of sepia prints of boggart old Clough on a pretty doom-laden looking day. Looks like part one of the nuclear winter, this. And one of them, it says, a rustic bridge on boggart old Clough. And if you look very closely, you can see a little team of larky, sort of man-about-town kind of boggarts, leaning over the rustic bridge and sort of dropping sticks in the water and fishing them out again. The bucolic charm disturbed by myopic middle-aged men clattering and banging. And not a man, Jack of them, a stranger to the drink. Ah, the boggart old Clough Works Band, Johnny Roadhouse put him up to it. Toot-toot-tootsie, goodbye. And I've just come across the rest of the letter from those Nixon lot who sent me the pictures of boggart old Clough from Chatterton. The reason they were sorting out their effects, they weren't expecting any bad news or anything at all. What they're actually doing, Eva and Cyril and Phil up there, they're actually this morning going to Australia. Australia? Dear Lord, back end of September. Nothing I said, I hope.
I remember when I met you, like it was only yesterday.
Nice little girl called Anne Breen with an irresistible offer. Hold me in the bricklayer's arms.
Radio 2.
And right across the nation, the time is 6 o'clock in the news this morning with Paul Leighton.
The leader of the military coup in Fiji, Colonel Sitiveni Rambuka, has admitted that he's guilty of treason against the Queen.
From Radio 2 for you.
Okay, girls, let's knock the skin off a rice pudding. There's the old gypsies and mice scratching and scraping like masters this morning. Virtuosi, everyone. The orchestra of the Derelict Hotel, the conductor Pete Moore. Pardon, first live death on Radio 2, Mona Lisa. I noticed this morning coming in, work has started, elements of refurbishment have started over at the Derelict Hotel, the old Langham over there. All they've done actually so far, the fellas in hard hats, of whom there are small armies of them, crawling about like ants all over the place, they've put up whacking great sort of boards all round the site, you see, and fellas and lorries and skips and stuff coming in and out all day long. Can't see a vast improvement so far. I reckon secretly they're doing a bit of open-cast coal mining there, but it's probably none of my business. Wednesday morning, the 30th of September. Very good morning to you. As I mentioned earlier on, The 20th anniversary today of Radio 2, and a lot of you noticed mountains of congratulations cards. Dear Ethel, she says, congratulations on your 20 years. I think she was confusing me, like a lot of you, confusing me with the whole of Radio 2. Well, I'm no relation to anybody else, Ethel, but it's good to hear from you again. And a couple called Sandra and John Hughes in Peterborough in Cambridgeshire, nice card from them, and a tantalising picture of a glass of shampoo and a little bag with some crumbs in it. This was all left of the cake, they say. It's the thought that counts, inflaming my passions. And Sandra and John Hughes welcome us back, management and me, from the week's break. Hope you had a good time. Yeah, and it's funny, they enclose a clipping. You know, management's always going on about, I'm not going anywhere on holiday with you until you get some decent undies. As though you get to the airport and you go through immigration control, they check your passport and all that, and the man says, right, let's see your undies. You're not coming in till you've got some decent undies. And Sandra and John, they send a clipping from a paper. And it's somebody saying, my little friend proudly announced the other day, at last, I can go on a 2-week holiday because I finally got 14 pairs of knickers. Singularly appropriate. On our anniversary morning, Roger Whittaker. Happy everything. I've just been nattering on the dog and bone to a girl called Sue Edwards, who's a leading light with Radio Dog Meat up in Manchester. And congratulations flooding in from the worthy burghers of boggart old Clough country up there. And Sue Edwards actually said that what I've not so far mentioned is, in fact, that we haven't attributed Radio 2's astonishing success and my little part in it to the great Johnny Roadhouse. Well, of course, it's all Johnny Roadhouse's acclaim. The day is Johnny Roadhouse's. Where would we be without him? Some would say a lot better off indeed. But cheers to John. Elizabeth Collins in Mum, I think, went to this sort of matter arising. Elizabeth said our old radio finally expired after 15 years the other day due to a sudden blast by your old mucker Chico Arnez singing. So that's what that racket was, Elizabeth. I was wondering what it was. And when he started to sing, old Chico Arnez, 3 light bulbs gave up the ghost and they shattered all over the bedroom. Well, that's what it says on the tapes, and you get these tapes in here, Elizabeth. It says at the bottom, Chico Arnez can seriously damage your health, and most doctors don't listen to Chico Arnez. He thought it was a duck, so he stuck it on the table with the legs cocked up. It wondered.
I am a seeker,
Get out of it!
a poor sinful creature.
My ending is just sort of petering out. Not with a bang, but a whimper. Dolly Parton and the Seeker. It's 21 minutes past 6, and I'm just still wading through all these cards of congratulations and stuff. Alice Chapman of Enfield in Middlesex, nice bootlicking note about Radio 2 and the rest of us. And Amelia Bunce and her husband, Hubby, rather. Amelia Bunce's hubby of Hampton in Middlesex. Nice little note from them as well. Cheers to the pair of you. And Brian Worthington of Lancaster, his wife Dorothy. They're burgeoning denizens of the early bright as well, and it's Dorothy's birthday this morning, around about 6:15, and son-in-law Richard, and a great big kiss from a granddaughter called Rachel. And if you do it at 6:15, 6:30 sort of thing, says Brian, it'll give it an awful fright. Listen, Dorothy, you won't get so much of a fright as you're going to get now. Here's the man who made it all possible, the boggart old Clough Works Band, the leading light of which is Johnny Roadhouse in an alcoholic coma. Oh, but he's got such a lovely singing voice, old John, hasn't he? Talented man. He was leading the Visiting Firemen, and Angela Christian was singing the song there, Put On Your Tatter Little Girlie. Quite what Angela Christian is doing mixed up with that gang of desperados, I haven't the foggiest idea. Falling amongst a bad lot, I think. It's 25 minutes past 6. I was just looking down the list of runners and riders here today on Radio 2. I noticed Jimmy Young this morning is going to be talking to the Minister of State responsible for local government, a chap called Michael Howard. Telling us all about your queries on local government, the rates, and the new wonderful invention called the community charge, otherwise known as up the poll tax. So he'll be here in this very studio with Jimmy Young between 11 o'clock and 1 today, which means I'll be kicked out at 7:30 while teams of men come in and seriously bottom the place. Always get seriously bottomed if anybody halfway decent is with Jimmy Young. And Gloria's on at 2 o'clock today. The Antique Legs man, Tony Curtis, he's in there. And then John Dunn at 5 today. His special guest is Sterling Moss. The Guardian's man in Paris, Paul Webster, he's going to come in and talk to John Dunn, telling him all about the growing support amongst Parisians for the restoration of the French monarchy. Now, I'm all in favour of this, because I would love to live through that period all over again with the great King Louis, you know, and we could let the mob get out. I love sound of this mob, all getting King Louis to wear the red cap of liberty. Do you remember? And once he'd worn the red cap of liberty, all the mob gathered around him and they just grabbed him in the Tuileries.
Many a tear has to fall,
King Louis wasn't very pleased.
but it's all in the game.
I think he's beginning to lose a bit of interest in it, you know. Like old Rolly Daniels. It's all in the game. And the game, of course, is indoor stag hunting from St. John Smith Square.
Radio 2.
Right across the nation, it's 6:30. The news with John Marsh.
The leader of the coup in Fiji, Colonel Sitiveni Rabuka, has been continuing his efforts to get support for his new regime. He's been having talks with the island's senior chiefs, which were said to have been fruitful and heartfelt.
I love that man in Fiji, Sitiveni Rabuka. I'd love him. I think we'll try and book him. When I take another holiday, I think we'll book him to get in here and stand in for me, Sitiveni Rabuka. It'd be rather nice. What I'd like particularly to hear is jingle. So the people come on and say, Radio 2, Sitiveni Rabuka. Take up half the programme. Wednesday, the 30th of September, 20th anniversary of BBC Radio 2. And a lot of us looking considerably older than the rest of us. But thanks for all your congratulations cards. Moira and Dick Robinson of Dulwich Dishwater, a couple who wrote. And Audrey down in Southampton doesn't miss much. And she, like a lot of other people, old Audrey, I've been reading in a magazine, I can't remember what the magazine's called now, Women Feeling Weekly or something, where they were a bit stuck for material and did an article on management and me. Amazing how many people read this Women Feeling Weekly. Audrey's obviously not feeling herself. There was just one thing about this magazine article, she says. Where is the lovely therapeutic garden which most of those interviewed in the magazine have to relax and unwind in? Well, the therapeutic garden is more of a backyard, really. I suppose I could have stood by the bin and looked a little enigmatic, but I don't think it would have sold many magazines. And Charlie Thompson of Bromley down in Kent, he's retiring from Canadian Pacific steamships today after more than 39 years. A long and happy retirement. He wants to pass on greetings and thanks to all the many hundreds of seafarers and all their families for their help and cooperation. Charlie Thompson, long and happy retirement to you. And he says, when I lived and worked in Liverpool, those beautiful white empresses used to come to the Mersey. That's right, lovely Canadian Pacific boats. We used to send our little sprog in the office down to the pier head with a letter to be delivered to the Empress of Canada. And I remember, says Charlie, he came back hours later with the letter saying he couldn't find the Empress of Canada. He said he'd been looking for some old Judy with a long dress and a crown.
Ain't no need to worry what the night is gonna bring.
Taking them an unconscionable time to make the point, isn't it? I can't quite remember what the point was now. There's a group called the Winans. Anita Baker singing there. None of us are any the wiser. But cheers to Charlie Thompson retiring after nearly 40 years with Canadian Pacific. I remember those years. It's not that long ago, actually, Charlie. You go to Liverpool and the whacking great landing stage, and there'll be a couple of your Empress of Canada boats there, and the Empress of England, and a couple of big Cunadas, and 2 or 3 Isle of Man boats dotted around. Wonderful. You go back to Liverpool now, Charlie, the landing stage, they've chopped that up. It's about 3 inches long. Ridiculous. And so for the moment, from all of us here in the studio, cheerio.
Hello there, this is Jimmy Young with news of this morning's programme. For the past 20 years, governments of all shades of opinion have been trying to change the unpopular rating system.
With Man Monroe, one of his great hits from the 1950s, My Kind of Girl. It's 6:45, and quite a few people weren't doing around about God's greatest hits time this morning. A fellow called Ron James, who's in Yeovil in Somerset. His adorable wife called Evelyn, known to the world, and his wife is Fagash Lil. She's got a birthday at 6:45 this morning. Many happy returns, Evelyn, and not from old Ron. She'll be sitting there at this time of the night, says Ron, doing her usual thing, drinking, and having drags on her roll-ups. Ah, that's right, I remember this woman. Old Sir Jasper's ready-rubbed shag, sitting there in the early bright in her curlers, coughing and barking. So different from the home life of our beloved Queen. Cheers, Evelyn, have a good one. And Ruth Long, a kind lady down in Farnham in Surrey. Ruth says she gets up early this time of the morning. She says, I heard you mention a couple of times that you've just discovered the talents of a composer called Duruflé. That's right, I rather like Duruflé. I didn't find Duruflé, says Ruth, until a couple of years ago, when the choir in which I sing, we sang the Requiem that he wrote. Anyway, Ruth very kindly enclosed a little tape of this choir she's in, singing this lovely Duruflé Requiem. I was having a basin full of that last night. It's wonderful stuff, Ruth. Well, thanks very much indeed. I especially like listening to God's greatest hit. Well, I think you'll enjoy this morning's, Ruth, because meekness is the theme of our reading and the hymn this morning, and some would say we've got an awful lot to be meek about.
Music, melody, 24 hours a day, serving the whole UK. Radio 2.
Yards and yards sounds of it. Morning, noon and night, no escape whatsoever. It's a Wednesday morning, the 30th of September. 20 years on for Radio 2 today, 20 years old. A burgeoning, spotty youth. And thanks for the thousands and thousands of congratulations cards. A lot of you seem to have got the impression that Radio 2's success has something to do with me, which is I'm only a mere sort of int. I'm a stale wart, a stalwart on the surface of Radio 2. But thanks to a lot of your kind thought. And a fellow called J. Russell Urquhart, see, attracting a much better class of individual now, J. Russell Urquhart, who runs a small bismuth advisory service. For small bismuth men, I suppose, in Kirkcaldy and Fife. They're only 4'6" tall up there. But his wife, a lady called Janet Urquhart, is retiring early today. 11 minutes past 7. You left it too late to retire early. But lots of love to you, Janet. All the best from Flo and Harry and Isabel and Bill and all that lot. And especially Russell himself. And Rita Smith, she's been covering the territory down in Bournemouth. She's been away abroad somewhere. And by way of congratulations, she enclosed this morning a funny little bottle. It's sitting over there winking at me. Funny little bottle of stuff. It says slobber chops or something, or slivovitz, or some Yugoslavian belly wash. And Rita Smith says, hang on to your hat. It's pretty powerful stuff. And if you don't like it, she says, you can always oil your bike with it. I don't think I'd let that anywhere near my bike, thanks very much. And Dave Castle in Deeside. He fluid diebark, look you, isn't it? His old dad, Jim Castle, is 80 today. And he's away down in Heathfield in Sussex. So many happy returns of the day, Jim, from all the family, Pat and Matthew and Julie and all them. Evidently, Jim Castle, 80 today, is a celebration. He's going to have an away day with another gang of folks, all in their 80s, I gather, some kind of youth club. And they're going to a Sussex vineyard to try and clear that lot off. And a nice fat head tomorrow morning, Jim Castle. A wonderful day. By the way, says Dave Castle, about that car boot sale at Easton. Ah, yes, nobody remembers this because nobody actually mentioned it. But about the car boot sale, could you please tell the man who bought the shop display stand the other day that we've actually now found the missing knobs? Could you kindly make this announcement, says Dave Castle, after the lost cats announcements? Yes, pudding's being over-egged before our very eyes. There you are, Johnny Mathis's birthday, especially for John, a record by Barry Manilow. Very fond of Barry Manilow. Thing entitled Mandy. It's 21 minutes past 7 now. Wonderful complaints coming in from Dot Farron, who's in Bletchley in Buckinghamshire. Thanks very much, fine friend you turn out to be, says Dot Farron. Nothing for Miriam when she retired, nothing for Dorothy on her birthday. What have we done wrong here in Bletchley? As far as I know, Dot, and perhaps I'd rather better not know. Cheers the gang of you, and the rest of the population of Bletchley. And Thelma Lusty, like many of you from Fairwater in Cardiff, congratulations on Radio 2's 20th anniversary. Here's wishing you, she says, another 20 minutes happy broadcasting. I might make 9, Thelma. And who's this lot? Pamela and Elizabeth Head. They hang on my every whim in Bradford in the West Riding of Yorkshire. Thanks very much, say Pamela and Elizabeth. Your appalling rubbish in the morning really drives us off to work very quickly. Well, if I can help somebody as I pass along, my living will not be in vain, Pamela. And love the music, they say. Especially they like the middle of the pictures music. Oh, do you? Yes, I quite like let's pop up to the West End and do a bit of shopping music. Do you like that? And music that you hear playing in padded lifts. What we've actually got this morning, Pamela, this is good. I like this one the best. This is the music. When the man comes on the television, he says, unfortunately, at the moment, we're unable to bring you further coverage of the sport, so in the meantime, some music. And now I'm very delighted to say we can now return you to our published programme, whatever the devil it was. Manuel and the Music of the Mountains, a thing entitled El Bimbo. And Ronald Cridland, I'll just squoze him in. I think he wanted doing yesterday as well, but I'm only doing you once, Ronald. We haven't got time to shilly-shally here. It's our wedding anniversary, he says. Give my wife an awful fright. I'd dearly love to give your wife a fright, Ronald, if only she'd been christened. Poor woman hasn't got a name. It was her birthday yesterday and their wedding anniversary today, so cheers to Mr. and Mrs. Cridland, do you? Oh, and tragedy has struck, you know. Dentures, no teeth has got it. Yeah. Terribly under the doctor, poor Dennis. I've told him before. Always walking about, going to lunch and drinking out of damp glasses. Get well soon, then. Keep taking the tablets. A lie down in a darkened room is the answer. Put an equal strain on all parts and you'll feel a lot worse. I like that better. My girl. Thank the Lord, a grave dearth of muscle-bound men. from the Frommers and the Potters. 27 minutes past, and there's a lady who writes in the Daily Mail called Linda Lee Potter's been at it again this morning. Ah, Linda, you're too kind. Free lunch is in the post. I'm going to take the article, show it to the three-man ruling military tramp team. And a fat lot of good it'll do, either of us.
There may be trouble ahead.
Yeah, let's bring on the booze and have a ball. It's 20 years old today. Vic Damone swinging along, face the music and dance. And Derek is next.
Radio 2.
Right across the nation, it's 7:30. The news with John Marsh.
The leader of the coup in Fiji, Colonel Sitiveni Rambuke, has admitted that his action, which has been...